Hey, I've been waiting on you. I am so excited that you have decided to join me. In fact, I really couldn't wait to get here today. I'm involved in the final throes of a new book. And so I've been at the computer and most of the day. And I just, it's always exciting. It's like you're creating I think a friend of mine who's a potter says it's like creating a whole new pot. You get started and you got to stay with it. It generally takes about a couple of years, if you will, to be able to take a book from start to finish. Well, so much for that. We'll talk more about that. But I'm glad you're here. I'm glad I'm here. Today, my topic is risk it to get the biscuit. Sometimes we have to think in terms of sticking our neck out a little bit in order to enjoy something better. How many times have we failed in our lifetime? You think about it. Let me ask you, did you, first time you got up, you probably don't remember, but were you able to walk? Did you almost drown the first time that you went swimming? How about that first time you rode the bicycle? Were you successful on the first attempt? For those of us who were ball players, did you hit the ball the first time that you swung the bat? Did you hit the basket the first time you took a shot? How about that tough math question? Were you able to handle it the first time? You see, a greater part of life is the ability to take a risk. We have to stick our neck out if we're going to make progress and move on to something better. Two great baseball players, Hank Aaron and Babe Ruth, struck out twice as many times as they hit home runs. But what do we remember about hitting home runs, right? You got to be willing to strike out, to hit home runs. That's the reason why home run hitters strike out more than the others. R.H. Macy, the Macy store, he had think of this, he fell 7 times before his store in New York was a success. J.C. Penney's, Colonel Sanders of J.C. Penney's from a store standpoint, department store. Colonel Sanders from Kentucky Fried Chicken days. You realize both those gentlemen were in their upper 60s before they became successful? They had made many attempts. I started to think in terms of sharing with you one of my goals. I'm barely over 65, but I want to go back next year and play on the senior tennis tour. I've done that. So gives us something to look forward to, right? The English novelist John Creasy got 753 rejection slips before he published 564 books. You know something? I had 36 rejections on one of my books before I got wise and took it to the #1 publisher for sports books. It was a book on baseball. And they took it within 30 minutes. But you know what I did? I learned from it. I learned I need to have some pictures and some drawings within the book. That's what life is about, isn't it? About making improvements, doing things, but it's mostly about taking a prudent risk to take the next step forward. Bill Bussey is a friend of mine. He's a longtime friend of mine. Most folks know Bill as Bubba. He recently retired as a co-host with Rick Burgess on the nationally syndicated radio show Rick and Bubba, a show that lasted almost 30 years. But you know something? It took Rick and Bubba, particularly Bubba, 18 years to get on the air. You know what happened? He and Rick were students together at Jacksonville State University in Alabama. And Rick was able to get a show on the local radio station at the university. But not the case with Bill. So Bill became the engineer for the station. They had met in a Spanish class. And as Bubba's saying, speak Spanish, I don't need to speak English. I will tell you a little more about that story as we get along. But Bill wanted to be an on-the-air personality. So he was around the business. Let's fast forward a few years. Bill, serving as chief engineer at a radio station in Gadsden, Alabama. The station was looking for a new on-the-air personality. So being friends with Rick, Bill asked Rick if he'd like to come and join a bigger station. And he did. And then the two guys started hanging out together and having lunch. And the next thing you know, one day, Rick asked Bubba to read some Shakespeare on the air. And Bubba did. And it was a hit. And this manager of the station, who had denied him an opportunity numerous times when he had asked, hey, can I be part of Rick's show? Nope. Well, he changed his tune. And the challenge to Bill was constantly changing until this time. And they offered him an opportunity to become a part of the Rick and Bubba show. In fact, if you want to know the truth, he was only known as Bill up until that point in time. But he became Bubba. You know the reason he became Bubba? And the reason why he was unable all that time to get on the air, because he had a country accent. Country accent. That's right. But you know what? It became something different for him. And Rick and Bubba, when a new president named Donald Trump in 2016 became president, they were the first radio station to get an interview. So I think about Bubba now, 30 years later, getting into retirement. That's a podcast he's hosting. So I want you to think in terms, where are you? Is there some type of dream that you really, really want to hang on to? You know, I remember as a boy getting a whole bucket of rocks, and I'd hit those rocks as far as I could with a broomstick. And you know why? Because I wanted to be a ball player. And I had that opportunity to be a professional baseball player. But I had carried that with me from the time I was a real youngster. I'm talking about 9, 10 years old. You know, our ability to take a risk and stay with it and to chase a dream is a real factor in the ability to be successful. The possibility does exist that it's easy to modify our expectations and shift gears to a lower level. Our expectations become less. So one of the greatest hazards that I see people do is to risk nothing. The person who risks nothing does nothing and has nothing of the dreams that they had set for themselves years and years ago. You know, we may avoid pain and sorrow, but you know what? On the other side of the ledger, we can learn, we can feel, we can change, we can grow, and we can perform and become what we really, really desire to be. So I ask you, how good at you are hanging in there when the going gets rough and the outcome is not clear? Do you let the challenges before you draw you out and become the very best you can be? The challenges in any phase of life give us a glimpse of the kind of person we can be if we're willing to risk it. Because you see, when we stick our neck out, when we really make that determination, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to be, this is what I want to have. When we stick our neck out to do that, we have qualities that rush to our aid. We become possessed with them. They simply give us a chance to be better than we've ever had been. Probably better than we ever thought we could be. And you know something? That exists for any of us. I'm Lou Vickery. I hope you'll tell 5 people about us, what we're doing here. Share it with them. Just ask them if they will to subscribe. Bring on board. And I thank you for joining us. Check out my website for my books. That is awiseword.life/library. Till we meet again, keep that smile on your face. Keep that happiness in your heart. Keep optimism on your tongue. I'll see you again soon. Thank you for being here.